Some people call it being polite, some call it being independent, and some call it having a quirky personality, which is convenient because it sounds way nicer than, "This was learned in a house where nobody noticed you." A lot of personality traits get framed as strengths, or at least harmless habits. You're low maintenance. You don't ask for much. You handle things yourself. Very chill. Very mature. And sometimes that's true. Other times it's just your nervous system doing a really good job of not causing problems, because at some point, that felt safer. This is about those traits. The ones that look normal, the ones people compliment, and the part of them that nobody really talks about. Number 1. Compulsive apologizing. Some people say sorry so often, it's basically punctuation. You bump into a chair, you apologize. Someone else bumps into you, you apologize. A loud noise happens outside, and you're like, "Sorry about that," to no one in particular. It reads as polite, maybe even charming, but it's not really about manners. At some point, apologizing became a shortcut, a way to smooth things over before anything had the chance to get tense. If you took the blame early, maybe the mood wouldn't shift. Maybe voices wouldn't rise. Maybe nothing bad would happen. So your brain logged that as a useful feature and kept it. Now it runs automatically. Your nervous system is always scanning for micro threats, and sorry is the fastest way to signal compliance, even when you didn't do anything, especially when you didn't do anything. The problem is that living like this keeps your body in a low-grade stress loop. You're constantly bracing, constantly appeasing, constantly acting like your presence needs justification, which is exhausting considering you're just standing there. Number 2, decision paralysis and fear of choosing, which brings us to the kind of stress that shows up when someone asks, "Where do you want to eat?" Suddenly, your mind goes blank. Not because you don't have preferences, but because choosing feels weirdly dangerous. Like there's a right answer you're supposed to know, and if you guess wrong, something bad will happen. So you deflect. You ask what everyone else wants. You check reviews. You say, "I'm fine with anything," even though you are very much not fine with anything. You just don't want to be responsible for the outcome. This usually comes from growing up in an environment where your wants were ignored, criticized, or treated like an inconvenience. Over time, your brain learns that having preferences doesn't help. It just creates friction. So it stops offering them. Now every decision feels loaded, even small ones. Your mind treats them like traps instead of choices. And freezing feels safer than committing. Because if you don't choose, you can't be wrong. And if you can't be wrong, you can't be blamed. Number 3, perfectionism and external validation seeking. And if you do finally choose something, you better do it perfectly. This is the version where everything takes longer than it should. Emails get rewritten. Simple tasks turn into high-stakes operations. A small mistake doesn't feel small. It feels like evidence. From the outside, it looks like you're driven, detail-oriented, high standards. Inside, it's mostly fear. The kind that says being good isn't enough. You have to be exceptional to be seen at all, because attention, praise, or approval didn't come freely. It had to be earned. So your self-worth gets tied to performance. Achievements don't feel satisfying. They feel like relief. You're not enjoying success. You're just avoiding the shame of falling short. And the inner critic is always ready to point out how close you were to messing it up anyway. It's a tiring system. You keep climbing, but there's no moment where your brain goes, "Okay, we're safe now." It just raises the bar and waits for the next test. Number 4, emotional detachment and intellectualization. And this is where things get oddly calm on the surface. You're great in a crisis. You give thoughtful advice. You can break down someone else's emotional spiral like you're narrating a documentary. Very composed. Very rational. And when someone asks how you feel, there's a brief pause while your brain searches for the data. You don't say you're sad. You say you're a bit off or tired. Or you explain the situation instead of the emotion. Feelings get treated like interesting concepts, not experiences. Something to analyze, label, and then store somewhere out of the way. That usually starts when big emotions weren't welcomed. Maybe they were ignored. Maybe they were inconvenient. So you learned that thinking about feelings was safer than actually having them. Logic became the shield. Detachment became the system. The issue is that emotions don't disappear just because you file them under later. They sit there, unprocessed, slowly building pressure. And eventually they leak out sideways through stress, irritability, or a very confusing reaction to something minor. Number 5, identity shifting and people-pleasing, which makes it easier to adjust yourself to whoever's in front of you. At work, you're calm and professional. With friends, you're relaxed and funny. With family, you're quieter. Not in a fake way, just in a very responsive way. Like you're always matching the room. You pick up on what people want and become that. Not because you're manipulative, but because it feels safer to blend in than stand out. Being agreeable keeps things smooth. Being adaptable keeps you included. And being yourself is kind of a wild card. This often comes from early experiences where authenticity wasn't rewarded. Maybe it was ignored. Maybe it caused tension. So you learn to scan, adjust, and mirror. Social survival over self-expression. After a while, though, it gets hard to tell what you actually like. Your preferences feel fuzzy. Your opinions feel negotiable. And when you're alone, there's this quiet sense of, I don't really know who I am without an audience. Number 6. Hyperindependence and avoidance of help, which is why you probably don't ask for help, ever. You'll carry too many bags. You'll figure it out yourself. You'll struggle quietly, rather than risk needing someone. From the outside, it looks like confidence. Inside, it's more like a rule. Don't rely on people. That rule usually formed early. Asking for help didn't lead to support. It led to disappointment, dismissal, or nothing at all. So your brain adjusted. Dependence became a liability. Self-sufficiency became safety. Now you're incredibly capable, but also weirdly alone. You handle everything yourself, and tell yourself you prefer it that way. But avoiding help also means avoiding connection. It blocks the small moments of trust that make relationships feel real. You're not proving strength. You're protecting yourself. And the cost of that protection is that you never get to rest. Number 7. Distrust of kindness and affection, which makes genuine kindness feel suspicious. Someone compliments you and your first thought isn't, thank you, it's, what do they want? A small gesture lands like a setup. A gift feels like it comes with fine print you somehow missed. This isn't because you're cynical or ungrateful. It's because affection used to be inconsistent, transactional, or rare. When care shows up without a clear reason, your nervous system doesn't read it as warmth. It reads it as danger, like something is about to be taken back. So instead of relaxing into it, you brace. You downplay it. You question it. Sometimes you even push it away preemptively, just to regain a sense of control. Familiar discomfort feels safer than unfamiliar kindness. Your body reacts before your thoughts do. Stress chemicals spike where comfort should be. Intimacy triggers vigilance instead of ease. And good relationships can start to feel overwhelming. Not because they're bad, but because your system doesn't trust that they'll last. Number 8. Invisibility and avoidance of being seen. And when all else fails, there's the strategy of simply not being noticeable. You stay quiet in meetings. You don't volunteer opinions. You keep your needs minimal and your presence light. If no one looks at you too closely, nothing can go wrong. This goes deeper than introversion. It's the belief that being seen is risky. In the past, attention might have meant criticism, conflict, or being ignored anyway. So your brain made a decision. Safer to disappear on purpose. Over time, that turns into something heavier. This requires permission you never received. Invisibility worked once. It kept things manageable, but it also taught you to treat your existence like a problem to solve, instead of something that's allowed. When you step back, a lot of this isn't about personality at all. It's about what helped you get through a situation that didn't really give you much room. Most of these habits feel normal because they worked, and you probably stopped questioning them a long time ago. It's a little strange to realize that the things people praise you for might have started as quiet survival strategies rather than personal preferences. Still, there's something oddly comforting about noticing the pattern, even if you don't do anything with it right away. And honestly, once you start paying attention to what the mind does to keep things running smoothly, it's hard not to notice the body doing the same thing. While you're asleep and feeling completely offline, it's busy handling a series of deeply unglamorous tasks that are somehow essential to you waking up alive. Which feels like a good place to wander next, because the list is longer, grosser, and way more impressive than it has any right to be.